the ideal is to have an inspirational teacher. It starts and ends, in my own view, with that. In Britain, ages ago now, when Tony Blair was Prime Minister, they had a fantastic advert for recruiting teachers, which you didn't realise at the time. It just had someone like Tony Blair saying, I don't know, Eric Anderson. No one had heard of him, whoever it was. And then, and of course, these series of celebrities saying these names that no one recognised were indeed the teachers that they had had. And the punchline at the end was, everyone remembers a good teacher. Yeah, and I think you yourself probably can think immediately of some teacher that inspired you and was exciting. And yeah, and everyone tears up almost when they think of Mrs. So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so who put them on the path for a certain subject. In my case, it was someone called Miss Lemon, Veronica Lemon, who taught Greek. But you remember these people as being exciting and really believing in you. And as someone said, a mentor is someone who believes in you more than you believe in yourself. That doesn't come from iPads.
And what inevitably happens, and I see it in every system I look at, the minute we have high stakes tests, sort of learning goes out the window. And it's how do we pass those tests, because that's the only measurement by which we're going to be evaluated. And if you go to the people in charge and say, okay, we didn't do really well on that because what we were doing was this, and it was project-based learning, and here's how they can use it in real life, and this is what companies are telling us they need, they look at you and say, but you didn't get the grades we wanted you to get. So it's a vicious cycle, in my opinion, and we have yet to break it. We have yet to break it in the United States, that's for sure.
I think both at home and school, the sorts of things we can do, of course, is to help to create dispositions in students, to help them to think about, the ways in which they feel about the learning, whether it be the literacy or the numeracy, and to, feel like they can have a go. So if you think about as parents, one of the things we can do as parents is to, give some of the onus to our kids. So say, can you read that for me, or can you, how much change have we got? How much money are we going to spend, or whatever's age appropriate for the kids. But you know what? That's going to take a bit of time. So if we're standing at the, at the checkout and we're dealing with the money, well, but that's okay, right? Because I'm doing this intentionally. I'm not just letting it happen to us. I'm choosing as a parent to just go, hang on, and then sentences that the kids can read the words. What do you think that means? And taking some time to interpret it, and then where we can to base our actions on the kids' interpretation, whether we like it or not. So even things like navigation, driving around in the car, walking around, which way are we going to go? We get to a crossroads, T-junction, which way are we going to go? And if the kid says the wrong way, because what we're asking them to do is bear in mind where we're trying to get to recall the roads or the ways that they know. And if they don't know, say, well, what's your best guess? Let's go and try it out. And if we fail, well, that's okay. So we'll go back and we'll try again a different way. That kind of modelling that we can do as parents in these everyday experiences that pop up time and time again. But we've got to be intentional about it. It won't just happen. If we just go through our daily lives, our stop and think skills, our literacy skills, our numeracy skills will be hidden to our kids because it's just happening underneath. We've got to bring it up and make it explicit, I think.
The signal and the noise, he says, the really powerful learners, in terms of what terms we're talking about, are those who can detect the signal amongst the noise. The internet environment, the virtual world, is full of noise. Yeah. Most of it useless, he says, distracting, unhelpful, trivial. Right. So he says it's the people who can detect the signal amongst the noise, who out of those 200 pages of Google can pick out the thing that's really significant. And he says that's going to be, they're the people who we need to be making decisions and leading and analysing.
And there are wonderful schools out there. I work a lot with international schools, and the American school in Japan is really a leader in this regard, and they've found ways to foster and help develop creative and design process, innovative thinking in kids very young. And the projects they have them do are not the kinds of things that are you can test very easily. And we value what we measure, unfortunately. So we need to measure different things or find different measurements for them.
Yeah.
I guess that I would see that creating a classroom culture and the type of experiences that students have, where they do have to create ideas, connect ideas for themselves, take risks in their approach, persevere with a situation, with a problem if they don't know how to do it. That takes time, and that's the thing that I think teachers have to actively construct for the students. And it does mean at least some of the time, and I'd like to see it something like half the time, the teachers plan their lessons in a way that pose challenging tasks for the students, but also consider that they need particular supports for students who might find it too difficult. It's about planning, and that planning is best done collaboratively with other teachers.
So I keep coming back, it's an issue of leadership. Until we have leaders sitting at the table saying, okay, here's how we define literate, and we're proud of it. Letters, numbers, media collage, art the fourth R, or whatever. And until they say, and we honor them developing problem-solving skills, creativity, and design thinking, we honor that. Not only do we honor it, we expect you to do it. You put that in the expectations, and then teachers can look at that and point at that and say, you know what? When I did that really creative, innovative project, I am just following the mission statement. And so I think it's going to have to come from the top down in that sense.
I think the short thing I'd say is don't just do it. This requires so much stop and think for us, as educators and as parents. The intentionality, is almost everything. And so when I think about things like, the curriculum or developing literacy and numeracy, I always think about it in two ways. There's the short-term stuff. What do I want to get them to get out of this lesson or this activity or this task? But there's the long-term stuff as well about how am I developing them as a learner. And the long-term, when we're busy and we're just doing our day-to-day stuff, can get lost in the short-term. And actually the long-term game is the big picture.